Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's episode was recorded on November the 7th, 2023. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, after a long break,
Caffeine Rage.
On today's show, we're going to be talking about the October Gameclub, which is Starfield. Better late than never, I suppose.
That was their release schedule.
Right. We'll also be revealing our next game club for November. Then there have been some mass resignations from the Escapist, and Nintendo announces a live-action Legend of Zelda movie. Timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Hello, Rage.
Hello.
What is up, my homie?
Dude, you're far too white for that.
I know.
Hearing you say that feels almost as bad as like watching doing some of the early stuff in the next Game Club game where this is a AAA developer trying to act like they're on the streets and being cool. And
oh, I haven't even played the next Game Club game yet, so Goody can look forward to some awful cringy B-movie level acting.
I mean, with the franchise, it's kind of a given.
That's true. But, yeah. No, we talked about what's been going on with us for an extended period of time for this week's Franken content, so you get to hear all about it. Basically, the short version is work stuff, and like new schedule type stuff, and then personal stuff, like kind of getting in the way. This past week or two. So, but here we are. We're back from outer space, and we're gonna do a thing. Actually, that kind of works, because I was just making the joke from, like, I will survive. But, since this month's Game Club is, Starfield, we're back from space. We fast-traveled back to here.
Oh, Starfield. Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. Are you ready to dive in?
Yeah, let's dive in. Let's get the uninstall out of the way quickly, right?
Yes. So, Game Club, for the uninitiated, is when Rage and I, on purpose, play the same game at the same time and invite the audience to join. And for the month of October, we played Starfield, Bethesda's newest release, which released in second week of September, something like that. And we've already talked about it once, like in a concentrated form on the show. And then we have talked about it off and on for a month and a half, 2 months.
Yeah, which is far more emotion than Starfield really deserves. Oh boy.
Yeah. Starfield. I have notes. I have some notes.
Yeah.
I did some homework.
I have notes too.
When we talk,
well, I need to get this out here first, all right? Because I'm infamous about my hatred of Skyrim. All right.
Yeah.
That Skyrim actively made me angry. Starfield did not make me angry. And it took me a while to figure out why. Okay? And part of that is, anger is an emotion, and that would require far better writing. Which, I already told you, so there's no, sick burn, but...
Ooh, sick burn.
But I think the reason why Skyrim made me angry and Starfield didn't, is that, and I realize that part of this is nostalgia, looking backwards in classes, is that while playing Skyrim, I knew that they were capable of doing a lot better and making a better game. I'm not convinced with Starfield. I don't think they can make a better game at this point. I think they're just utter shit.
Bethesda, I do want to say, like, Bethesda Game Studios. I think that in many of these cases, this is a game ruined by committee.
No. This is a game ruined by Todd Howard. There's some articles that's come out. That's basically, Todd Howard had final say over a lot of the mechanics and systems of Starfield. And it shows.
The auteur thing almost never works out. Everyone thinks that they could be David Cage, but nobody can be David Cage but David Cage. Like, that one man or one woman, like creative, whatever, just doesn't work on this scale. But yeah, I
he's
do
no Sid
believe,
Meier's.
yeah, I do believe that the developers could have made a better game. And there are seeds and threads of what look like some really good and interesting gameplay mechanics and story elements that I'm sure were left on the cutting room or the development floor, because combination of not a combination, like a snowballing of bad decisions and their effects piling up over the course of years of this game's development, costing too much time and too much money. COVID didn't help either, but COVID is not an excuse that can be used at this point to like say like, oh, COVID ruined our game. Like, I don't think that's an excuse that can be used anymore for games. There was a window and a time where I think that was acceptable, but then studios adapted, work from home. The world more or less abandoned the idea that there's this awful deadly disease that still is rampant and killing people and has new mutations all the time and is killing more people every year than the flu. But we won't dwell on that. Just like climate change, it's a Chinese hoax. But anyways, yeah, I do think that there could have been a better game here, but not made by Bethesda Studios.
Or at least not under Todd Howard.
Yeah.
Because I know we're jumping the gun big time on this, but it feels like so often whenever a quest line was going somewhere and you're like, ooh, it can't possibly be this because that'll be the laziest, most hackney thing ever. It was exactly that. It was
99.9% of the time it was that.
I will say that I didn't get through all the faction quests.
I did. 99.9% of the time it was what you thought it would be, as the laziest thing possible. Let's zoom out just a little bit. I mean, talking about this game is going to be a mess because the game itself is a disjointed mess. I don't think unless this was like a single person deal where we could like curate and go through our thoughts, but the conversational style of our show, I think, makes that impossible since we don't actually do very much prep work beforehand.
And we played the game. That's enough.
We did. My experience with Starfield, I did a lot of homework. Starfield is my type of game. This sci-fi, ostensibly, because it's not. It is sci-fi. But this sci-fi
light.
This sci-fi space exploration game is like my jam.
Mm-hmm.
I've got hundreds of hours in Elite Dangerous and hundreds of hours in No Man's Sky and hundreds of hours in Space Engineers and thousands of hours in EVE Online. Like, this is my jam. And so I put a lot of time and effort into it, trying to like compare it as objectively as I could to some of these other games that it was trying. I feel like it sold itself as trying to be like. And so I played through all those major quest lines. I New Game Plus'd the game. I spent a lot of time doing testing on mechanics and looking up online sources for testing on mechanics. I put together like a spreadsheet for sort of what it takes to actually be able to engage with all of the game's mechanics. Like, I did my homework. And then I think you played the game more like a normal person who was like, and then just like bounced off of it.
Saying bounced off of it makes it sound like I played far less than I actually did. I basically tried to engage with as much modding tools as I could to try to make the game palatable. My first major issue is just how abysmally slow the leveling curve is, and how many levels you need to unlock basic mechanics.
Oh God, let me pull up my spreadsheet. I've got a Google...
the first few levels go fairly quickly, and then it just falls off a cliff. I installed a mod that did 200 to 300% experience bonus for well rested instead of 15%, and it was still getting sluggish.
Yep, I also I don't remember if I got that. No, I got that one from you. Yeah.
I mean, there's things like you don't get a stealth indicator until you spend a point. You can't pickpocket until you spend a point. You can't do negotiations until you spend a point.
All right, so here's my. I did how many? Let's see. I looked up every skill. All right, so there are. Oh, I didn't actually total up how many skills there were. I can do some quick math because you can. There's 328. You can spend up to 328 skill points if you max out every single skill. So what is that?
Oh God, if you don't have experience bonuses, whew.
That works out to 82 skills. So there are 82 skills in the game. You start with 3 skills with 1 point in them.
Depending on your start.
Yes, depending on your start. There's different sort of career paths or whatever you can take. They give you 3 different skills that are supposed to match that path. And then there are a few things in the game that give you free ranks in stuff as part of quest lines. So if you do everything, there are you get 1 from Ryujin, you get 1 from the main quest, and then you get 1 for completing like a side, like a sort of a random like, oh, this is a discovery, like, you know, you find some stuff in the world that leads you to a quest and you follow it. You get 3.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that knocks 6 total levels. So you only have to get to level 322 if you wanted to max everything out. But in order to actually engage with all of the game's basic mechanics, you need 20 skill points. So if you only put skill points in what you have to do to be able to unlock all of the game mechanics, you have to get to level 18. And you have to spend all of those points.
That's assuming, of course, that you picked a start that gives you the bonuses for, you know, what would unlock points.
That's true.
Unlock mechanics, because you could get unlucky.
Well, there's stuff in every single skill tree, so you will get, you know, be able to shave at least a point or 2 off of that. But yeah, you could need to get as high as level 19 in order to.
You including stuff like having the grenade throw arc shown? Because
no,
because that was behind. Was it rank 2? And that requires the other infuriating mechanic on their level up system, the challenges. Which once you unlock something, in order to put another point into it, you have to do some sort of challenge related to that skill.
Oh, no, that's on the first thing. The trajectory arc is on the first.
Okay, I can't remember. I know it's on the second tier of that tree.
Yeah,
or tree is being generous. It's more of a shrubbery.
Right. No. Yep. I'm including the points you have to waste in order to get to those things. I mean, you can spend, because it's in the combat tree, you can spend all of those points on ballistics. Most of the weapons in the game are ballistic weapons.
Yeah, which it feels very boring for a sci-fi game, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I heard somebody call this game something, and I want to hear your opinion on it.
Okay.
Bethesda made Starfield NASA punk, where they tried to make everything very clean and very white, and they didn't want to do like the used up future or any sort of like even grunge, because even their grungy city, was there like 4 or 5 major cities, quote unquote, or settlements or whatever you want to call them. Even their grungy one isn't really that grungy. Only thing grungy about it is the frame rate.
No, that doesn't feel right. NASA punk? I mean, I get what they're going for when they say that, but
particularly, the UC, you know, where, they're basically trying to make essentially the clean future, but not do full-on Star Trek unlimited resources through replicators.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense for the UC, for that faction.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what they're supposed to be. this game's version of the Star Trek Federation.
Yeah, which
But hang on. Let's not get away from this yet, right?
Yeah.
So you have to get 20 points to unlock all of the basic skills in the game, which is the stealth meter, the persuasion chances, being able to pickpocket from people, being able to do the combat slide, combat slide and power attacks, being able to negotiation, being able to do piracy, and bribery for certain speech challenges, which unlocks, like I said, piracy, and then some other negotiation options. Air quotes, negotiation options. Getting access to the grenades, and like being able to see where you're throwing grenades. Being able to use your scanner effectively. Being able to use the jetpack.
Jetpack. More like wet fart pack.
Being able to engage with the ship mechanics, the space combat mechanics of like your lateral thrusters and targeting system. Being able to pick locks. That's all of it. Yeah, that's all of it. That's all the basic skills. Now, if you want to actually be able to play the game at a moderately effective level, which lets you unlock the higher tier levels of ships, lets you be able to carry enough weight that you don't feel like you're constantly like running back to your ship to dump all your gear off because the carrying capacities are extremely low. That you can actually earn enough money from all that loot you're carrying around. And again, we're not getting into science. We're not getting into weapon customization. We're not getting into base building. This is just like, I can fly my ship good. My bullets do a bunch of damage. I've got some health and I can carry some stuff. 27 points to
on top
spend.
of it, or
27 total. So you need an additional like 9 levels. All right. So we're getting to level 24, level 25, level 26, depending on what your starting perks, your abilities give you.
Mm-hmm.
But a first run playthrough unmodded for everything that I've seen online seems to be around level 30. So you've played through the game once and are not really getting involved in quote unquote the deeper game mechanics.
Mechanics, like turning thrusters.
If you actually want to do that, if you actually want to be able to either be better as a solo player, because there is a skill tree for going solo without a companion that gives you boosts, and there is a skill tree for leadership, which gives you boosts for your companions, and lets you have more crew for your ships. So if you want to use some bigger ships, hire tier equipment, and actually start to engage with base building mechanics and equipment personalization, and in order to actually be able to do all of that, 64 points. So 60-ish levels, which is insane. People in a lot of videos I've seen online, people are like, when they get to level 30, they're like, okay, time to build a base and grind out a whole bunch of XP through the manufacturing process. I'm going to make all these level 1 widgets because they each give me 1 XP and I can make 10,000 of them an hour or whatever. So that means in 20 hours I can get to level 100. And then if you actually want to engage fully with all of the mechanics in the game, so you want to max out your base building so you get access to all of the base pieces. You want to max out your ship building so you get access to all of the ship components. If you want to max out your weapon customization so you can build the best weapons that you want and the best spacesuits that you can, and you want to be able to explore the galaxy by having a ship that can travel far enough to, make all of the gravity jumps to all of the distant systems that exist for exploration.
So basically build Starship Velociraptor.
Yeah. And if you want to max out either being a solo player or having a big ship crew, 135 skill points.
Oh, you got
so you have to get to level 132 at, if your starting class gives you that a useful 3-point boost. Although kind of by this point, it doesn't really matter. The skills are spread so far out among so many different things that anything that you pick is going to be beneficial in this by this point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's completely ignoring almost half of the skills because they're pointless. They don't do anything. Like, mechanically, they don't because they're broken. Or they don't do anything because they're so niche that they interact with such a small amount of the game. Like I said a few minutes ago, ballistics make up 85% of the personal weapons. You've got, regular kind of sci-fi guns, rail guns, and particle cannons. All count as physical ballistic weapons.
Yeah, the only thing I could really read into that was energy weapons was the EM gun, which was meant to stun people.
There's a whole tree for that one gun. There's literally one gun that does EM damage, and you can put 4 skill points on it in it. Like, they should have just rolled it up into the laser tree.
I never even encountered a laser weapon.
There's a few. But I mean, there's only... I mean, I don't know how many guns are in the game specifically. Something like 24, maybe 30 weapons in total that are not melee weapons, which are pointless. You can't upgrade melee weapons. You just can't. There's no way to customize them or upgrade them at all. What you see is what you get. Once you hit a certain level and kind of you get the capped out, like, max level scaled versions of those, they cannot get any better except by your use of skills. But yeah, there's one there is one single laser pistol, there is a single laser shotgun, and there are 2 laser rifles, and then the mining laser counts as a laser rifle.
Mm-hmm. So I found, well, this is weapon models. So and I sorted it by damage type. And I would say 2/3 of the list is all ballistic.
Yeah.
You have the one EM weapon. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lasers. 1, 2, 3, 4 particle beams, one of each type. And then the melee weapons, which are all physical.
So, and the ship weapons has got slightly more kind of even balanced. But with the ship weapons, you only want particle weapons, because particle weapons do hull and shield damage at equal rates.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can mix and match if you want to. Like, ship combat is a joke. Really, combat in this game is a joke.
Yeah, I ended up just mixing and matching just so I could press another button.
And there are no powers that are affected by your skills. The way you level up powers is to New Game Plus again.
Mm-hmm.
And get the upgraded versions of the powers. But all the powers suck.
They suck almost as much as the temples.
That's another...
the temples are like the, which we're getting heavy into story spoilers, so if you give a shit about the story, you don't.
Shouldn't, but...
Bethesda basically looked at, like, Legend of Zelda and saw, well, people like temples, we'll give them temples. And they made all the temples Superman 64. You fly through rings for like 5 minutes, and then it unlocks the big ring that you can fly through.
And then that gives you the superpower.
And that's it.
Super should be in really small letters. Okay, there are 24 powers.
How about this? Super should be considered as strong as your jetpack. Which, I'll get to the jetpack.
There are 24 powers that you can get, only 23 of which you can get on the first playthrough. The 24th power, which also sucks, doesn't unlock. You get a special quest for it after you have New Game Plus, because it relies on the idea of, like, you're a multiversal being who can summon other multiversal beings, like your other multiverse versions of being, to your aid. So they don't give you that one until you finish the main story and New Game Plus.
Mm-hmm.
But there are 24 powers. There are exactly 3 that are of any use. The first is a power that gives you, for a little bit of time, I think it's like 30 seconds, maybe not even that long, unlimited or infinite oxygen, which means which translates to stamina. You can be in toxic environments and you won't take damage. That's also a useful thing for it. For some reason, if you wind up with no spacesuit or on a planet where there's like lots of toxic gas, it protects you from that. But then, yeah, it gives you unlimited stamina so that for that 30 seconds, you can ignore the carry weight capacity and run around with, 10,000 kilograms worth of space rocks in your backpack.
Well, here's the other thing is that you could just ignore the carry capacity anyway, because running with, your entire starship in your back pocket will not kill you. It'll bring you down to like 10% health, but you can just keep sprinting.
Yep, it won't kill you. It makes your screen all red and your character like breathes really heavy, but it doesn't kill you.
So if you're in a safe environment, like, the main starter city, you're sprinting to the lodge, the super cool hunter club, to deposit everything in your infinitely bottomless chest, it doesn't matter.
It does make you run slightly slower if that annoys you. But so
there's far other things in this game that annoy me more.
Fair enough, but that power is useful. There's a power called Void Form that turns you invisible for like 15 seconds, which is extremely helpful for when you're want to rob everything from a shop. Certain object interactions make you visible again, but you still get away with stealing the thing that you were stealing while you were invisible. You just have to wait for the power to reset and use it again. But you can interact with crates, so anything that has an inventory, you can interact with that inventory and it doesn't make you visible. And I don't know if that's on purpose or if that's a bug. So if you're listening to this and that doesn't work anymore, it was a bug. And then the third power that's actually useful, and this one is only very situationally, is an ability that you get that is like a little black hole that sucks everything into it. It does a tiny amount of damage, which, whatever. But what it's useful for is that it knocks every enemy down that gets sucked up into it. And one of the ways that this game tries to even the playing field against you once you start to get to really high levels is it does the thing that many video games, throughout time immemorial do, which is spams you with tons of enemies. And so you plop down a black hole, they all get sucked into the middle and fall down, and you've got like 5 seconds to blast them with a rocket launcher.
Oh, don't forget damage sponge. So many bullets.
Enemies are extremely damage spongy. But of the 24 abilities, those are the only 3 that are of any use. And some of them sound really cool. One of them lets you shoot like a laser beam out of your face for a second. There's one that shoots like a ball of plasma.
Tickle beam.
There's one that siphons health off of enemies. There's one that creates like a zero gravity field, which knocks enemies over, but it also is you would think could be useful for like traversal because you can jump. In a zero gravity environment, you can push yourself off there, which can let you jump farther. There's that one that that creates a neutral sort of 1G or Earth gravity, which has the potential to be useful for puzzles, which don't exist in this game, but could be interesting. There's literally Fusro Da, space Fusro Da, which is funny, but the black hole power does that job way better. There's a completely useless power that I'm not sure if it's broken or not that is supposed to let you see into the future, but the only thing that it actually does is show you what someone's response is going to be to a dialogue option. And it's like, well, you can find that out by doing the dialogue option. And it doesn't help you during the persuasion minigame either. It doesn't show you whether or not your thing is going to succeed. Let's see, there's a power that revives dead enemies to fight for you. Sounds cool, but they're extremely weak. So it's not...
Well, it's using also the combat AI, which... Oh boy.
Half the time they're dead before they even get off the ground. There's one that lets you create a copy of something and it will fight for you. There's a power that... makes you fly forward a little bit, so it's kind of like an extra boost pack or an extra jump. Could again be useful if there were puzzles in this game, which there aren't. There's some others.
My big puzzle for this game is where the fuck did the development time go?
There's some others, but they're not they're a waste. All of these powers are ultimately a waste. The ones that are good, the game would have been better off if that whole section would have been stripped from development and used for something else.
Honestly, I enjoyed the game more before we got to the whole, space powers. Ooh.
The main quest ignores them completely. It has the artifacts, which is fine. It's like, these weird artifacts that are connected to some kind of center point in the multiverse, and you have to figure out how to get there, and you can become like God or something. Like, that's fine, going on this quest over and over again for the artifacts, but yeah, the temples are ignored completely by the main story after the first, like, there's a temple out here, we should go see what it is. And then they're never, like, you're never forced to engage with them again if you don't want to.
Although, can't imagine why somebody would outside of just sadism.
Yeah. Completionist people.
Like I said.
Yeah, fair play. But yeah, none of your abilities affect, none of the skills that you get boost the powers. The only way to boost the powers is to visit the temples again on a new game plus, and then you get like an upgraded version of the power. You can do that 10 whole times. So if you hit every temple, every playthrough, you have to new game plus 11 times to get all of the powers maxed. Because it doesn't give you the 24th power until the first time you new game plus. Let's talk about that a minute. Right? Let's talk about that. The key conceit of this game's story is that you get to relive the same campaign or the same universe over and over again by going through these
movie. What's that hell?
by going through these multiversal
Bill
portals.
Murray?
Yes, Groundhog Day. He hated it. But you get to do that over and over again, with the idea being that, like, eventually, somehow, some way, you will get to the center of this multiverse. I don't know if you actually can, but
does
that's
it have a creamy nougat center?
Probably. That's a really interesting concept. At its core, wonderful storytelling idea, because the nature of video games, especially this type of video game, is that you're going to play it over and over and over again with a new character, and you know, new ways that you do stuff, new, you know, whatever. But like, that's the idea, and like building that into the story and into the gameplay mechanics, great, good start. Completely fumbled by the development team. Lackluster implementation at its best points, right? So you would think, I mean, there do have to be limitations to this. I understand that. But you would think, okay, if you do all of the missions, all of the storylines, you should be able to get all kinds of new, interesting dialogue or interactions or take shortcuts on things. You should be able to use your foreknowledge as a player in this universal structure, which is set up to be like your character in the game has this foreknowledge. Doesn't do it. Every once in a while. And really sparingly. And also sometimes in weird places that make no sense. But really sparingly, you will get a dialogue option that says Starborn, which is like what your character becomes when they enter this multiversal thing. It's like a Starborn entity. And it will, you know, it'll pop up, it'll say Starborn, and you click on the dialogue option, and, you know, it'll like be something of like, oh yeah, I know this, it's he, blah, blah, blah. And like your character will spout, like, you know, we'll have a little bit of information, or we'll ask a specific question that it's like, only they would know because they've done it before. And the other character, you know, and the NPC that you're interacting with is like, oh yeah, that's weird. No, you're right. Or, you know, whatever. And that's neat. It is neat when it happens. And in the main storyline, there are a few places where that you can do some interesting things with that. So mediocre at best. In the main storyline, you didn't get there. I think you were like right before this. You are forced to make a choice to go to place A or place B. And depending on what you do, you get a major storyline split. A main character dies, like they're guaranteed to die. It changes some interactions that you can have with the primary antagonists. There's two of them. And gives you more likelihood to be able to ally with one versus the other if you choose to do so. And then you get some unique equipment, and it changes up the some of the quests moving forward in terms of like what order they happen in and cutting you off from certain options because it's like one of the characters is dead. You can, when you play back through the campaign, if you choose to play the campaign, because it also lets you skip it. Whenever you do New Game Plus, you can choose to skip the campaign. You show up and you're like, hey, I'm a Starborn. Give me all those artifacts, please. I'll be on my way. But if you play the campaign, when you get back to that point, you can use your foreknowledge to convince, like have an opportunity to convince everyone to go together instead of splitting up, and you can save the person from dying. And the main antagonist is like, huh, that's new. Good job. We'll see if you do it again next time. And that was interesting. That was one of those moments where I told you, I was like, oh, that's something that I wanted to see if you could do. But that's the 0.01% of the time. The rest of the time, there's nothing. So you're forced to go through the motions again on these quests to play them a second time. Or there's a kind of a little random side piece of dialogue, and that's it. You get to, move on. Absolutely fumbles a very interesting, cool implementation of ludonarrative, using your gameplay or using the fact that this is a video game to help further the story. Absolutely fumbled. Garbage. Disappointed. Made me big sad.
For you.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, part of me wonders how much of this is just they're beholden to Creation Engine. What is it, 4 or 5 now? Where they're so held by their own technology at this point that they're not wanting to invest into whatever. I mean, a good example of this is the Generation ship. There's a side quest that pops up where, well, I guess we should actually say, the beginning of Starfield, they go into like the history of the universe, and that essentially the Earth's magnetosphere. Oops, we forgot to pay the electric bill, and it goes away. And the Earth has 50-ish years to basically, everybody get the fuck out. And they go into some more of the history of it, but that's kind of the what sets things off to people colonizing the stars. And before that goes off, a bunch of basically billionaire dickheads see that the Earth is a real possibility of imploding, and create a generational ship to get the fuck out early. And it's one of those things that where the game feels like it's so held back by its own technology, where it doesn't feel like it's this old tech that comes through into the modern quote unquote age, and everything feels reused, and there's not enough, feels like, space on it. And it's kind of that way throughout the whole game, where they're trying to do something, but the game runs like absolute shit. And this is them pushing it as far as they could,
Yeah.
Part of me wonders just how much of the game is because of the limitation. And I know sometimes limitation does breed some interesting solutions and ideals. But, having it where, planets are 4x4 kilometer procedurally generated plots of land with the same half dozen points of interest that respond on them. And no, I'm not joking.
And there's no ground vehicles.
Oh, yeah. The only traversal you have is your jetpack, which is basically a boost pack. Depending on the flavor that you have, there's one that basically shoots you way up high in the air, one that doesn't shoot you up very high, but instead moves you more horizontally. A balanced version, and there's one other, isn't there?
There's basic, which is a weaker version of the balance. There's the balanced. Mm-hmm. There's the skip. That's the one that makes you go more forward than up. And then there's the power boost pack, which shoots you way up.
Yeah, which is, shoot you way up, it makes you a pinata. But they're not jetpacks per se. They're more like almost akin to like a double or triple jump.
Yeah.
With some control over how you're doing. But the thing is that because there's no ground vehicles and that's your only traversal option, you're going to be running a lot. And whenever you bring out the scanner and see, oh, point of interest. Oh, look, it's that cryogenics lab. I wonder if that's going to be different from the last half dozen ones. No,
It won't
it's
be.
not. Or even better is whenever you get into areas of the game that that supposedly, has less less civilization. Oh, look, it's the same cryogenics lab. They built another one here.
Yep.
Procedural generation does have its place, but if you're also going to have points of interest that are hand built, have more than 3 of them. Which I'm being a little facetious there.
I genuinely think there's only like 24 facilities that
I
are
was going
not
to say
quest ones.
well, there are some unique ones that are only on certain planets, but for the generic ones that pop up through procedural generation, there's only a couple dozen, which sounds like a lot. But the thing is that if you're landing on a planet, you'll see between like 2 and 5 points of interest on the map. And there's no variance on one version versus another. To the point that I went to the same... I'm trying to think of exactly what one it was. Yeah, I know it was basically it was a hangar that was overrun by bandits. But I went to 3 of them, and even the loot was the same, minus what was, I think, randomly generated in some crates. But oh, well, here's going to be the illicit drugs that will have to go to the wolf system to sell. The wolf system has a vendor that basically will buy anything that you won't get, and you won't get scanned for illegal narcotics and stuff going into the system. Which, hey, the skill for that is broken, by the way. Supposedly.
Yep. If you max it out, it makes it easier for you to be scanned. I think if you get it to level 3, it works, and then if you get it to level 4, it like undoes itself.
There's a whoopsie doodle.
There's a whole bunch of stuff like that. I mean, the ammo or damage doesn't stack properly. It's supposed to be multiplicative, and it doesn't. It just picks the highest damage type and applies that damage. And armor doesn't work right. Damage resistance doesn't work right. Armor piercing effects don't work right. Effects like burn that are supposed to be able to be applied multiple times don't, and neither does poison. And lots of stuff like with your ship cargo and your ship shields, they don't work like how the skill says they're supposed to, and I could go on, but I won't.
Remember, most polished Bethesda game ever. So, what was the bugs that you hit that you found enjoyable? My favorite one was a hostage NPC for the bank quest. Ran through the airlock to escape the firefight on a planet that had no atmosphere, and she did not have a spacesuit on. She was fine, she was just hanging around, looking at some rocks.
NPCs. I don't think NPCs need to wear spacesuits at all. One of my favorite bugs is that on outposts, you could get people, like you could talk to them, and then they would kind of just turn around and walk away, and you could lock them outside the habitats with no spacesuits, and then they would like phase through the dirt and disappear until you fast traveled away and fast traveled back. Or the bug where that every time you tried to place items on your ship, they would go back into the ship inventory, creating this weird and stuff that spawns by default as part of the ship habitats that you put together, the ship modules. could create this weird infinite loop where that you would fill up your ship with garbage.
I need a bug to do that. I could do that myself.
Because it would keep respawning the garbage into the inventory. I had bugs with the mannequins decorating my apartment after I completed the UC Vanguard quest, the Terramorph quests. You get the penthouse apartment, and then you can place armor mannequins in there. And then I'd go to place armor on them, and the mannequin bodies would disappear. Falling through the floor was always great into the dark abyss. Having to close my game and open it again. The awful, like, weird shape-shifting demonic faces, especially of children. That's kind of always been a feature, though, not a bug. Let's see, what are other bugs I encountered? My ship phasing through something I was trying to dock with and then getting stuck, and needing me to reload the game to fix it.
Well, I had at one point my ship, I'm not sure if it was docked with itself or if like a second version spawned in the docking cutscene. But it was like there was like a weird shadow of my ship, and it just would not undock. So I had to reload on that one.
I think my favorite bug overall was my asteroid buddy. I don't know how. I don't know how this happened. Lots of people reported having this happen. Maybe you had it happen. But going to fast travel from, one planet to another within a star system, sometimes randomly you would pick up an asteroid and it would just follow you in every single ship cutscene forever. And I had an asteroid buddy. I had 2 of them, actually, for, I don't know, the last 25, 30 levels worth of gameplay that I put in. There were some people online who had like bits and pieces of space station or ground decoration that would follow them around. They would post screenshots. So that was my favorite bug, having an asteroid space buddy.
See, I didn't have any of the fun ones. I had some of the annoying ones. I'm pretty sure I had a money disappear at one point because I was doing fairly well, and it's like all of a sudden I had no money. I'm not sure what happened there. And no, I did not go on a spending spree, or neither did any of my companions. So, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. It's so 5 out of 10. It is probably the most mediocre game I have ever played, where it has an occasional high, it has an occasional low, and everything else is just kind of in the middle.
I will say, hitting the Terramorph quest, that first UC mission at a very low level, was probably the most fun I had with the game. Basically, it's like a modified stealth mission where you are you're trying to do things while I can't believe it's not a space Deathclaw is essentially stalking you, and I'm like level 3 or 4 at this point.
Oh, you hit that quest really early.
Yeah, I just was bumbling around. It's like, that sounds like an interesting quest. I'll do this one. And I ended up, hitting, the alien one. I didn't finish the quest line, though, but...
I did. It was one of the better ones.
Also, not completely disappointing?
Both of the UC Vanguard quests, the Terramorph one, and then the one where you go to hunt pirates, and you work undercover and hunt pirates. Mm-hmm. Those are the 2 best quest lines in the game, in my opinion. Ryujin would be up there because it has some of the most interesting dialogue and like some political subterfuge, but because that quest line relies almost exclusively on a broken and mostly broken, slightly non-existent stealth system, getting through the quest line sucks.
See, I started Ryujin, but I never got far enough to require stealth, so Ooh, glad I didn't.
And then the Ranger quest line is just awful.
Yeah, I ended up wasting a lot of time with the Ranger one.
It does have
But,
one of the better rewards though. The ship you get is pretty good. And as like an early, like if you hit that quest line early, you get a couple of interesting weapons and the good ship.
yeah, but how do they make Space Cowboys boring? Or Space U.S. Marshals or whatever, you know?
Yeah, they do. They do. They do that. The main quest is okay also. I mean, it's not great, but it is like, the primary quest line. So I assume it got a lot of attention.
Mm-hmm.
There's some halfway decent random kind of side quests you run into. There's a one that's like a 3 or 4 mission plot line with some gangs on the cyberpunk planet.
Neon.
Neon, thank you. That's a pretty decent quest line. It ends kind of abruptly, but as far as side quest lines go, kind of random ones, it's okay.
Yeah, I did have one note. Ran to a guy at a bank, and he trusts me completely because I'm the protagonist.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of a Bethesda thing. Oh, I see you're the protagonist. Here, you could do this job.
Yep. When you say ran into a guy at the bank, are you talking about the Gal Bank guy that sends you
Yeah.
as a debt collector? That's
Yeah,
an interesting side quest line as well.
yeah. I would have liked to seen that more fleshed out. You know.
Yeah, you go on, I don't know, 5 jobs maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and meet several different characters and can kind of get into shenanigans if you don't just want to like uh extort those poor people for their money. Like they give you some additional kind of alternate quest lines.
Yeah, yeah. I would have loved to seen more of that. You know.
There's a side quest line where that there's like some pirates that are attacking this installation where the 2 main militaries are at, the UC and the Freestar Rangers. And in the game's lore, relatively recently, there's been a massive war between these 2 factions, and they're at peace now. But like both of these units fought in the war, and they're having to come together to fight the pirates. That was a pretty well done side
Yeah.
quest arc.
Yeah, it was also neat having a random encounter with them later. The generation ship. That's one that feels like there's like a right answer to how to finish the quest, and then there's like several wrong answers.
Yeah,
But it was also one of those that feels like it was more held back by the technology. You know, the fact that at best there's like 20 people on this ship,
yeah.
which you didn't hit it, but because I went through and talked to him, I guess a lot more thoroughly. But it was hinted that, well, it wasn't hinted, but it was stated outright that they had strict population controls, and the oldest people were either committed suicide or were fucking murdered to keep resources in check.
Yeah.
But once again, there was a lot of inbreeding if that's all the people on that ship. That's all I'm saying. It's based Alabama.
So, there were some interesting quests, and I mean, in a game, that massive, there are going to be a few hits, but on the whole, when you flip all the coins, roll all the dice, however you want to say it, like it comes out to be extremely average.
There's a lot of filler.
Yeah.
And occasionally you get a bit of meat, but it's mostly filler. It's like biting into a Big Mac. You're going to get a lot of filler. Occasionally you'll get a hunk of meat, but it's mostly going to be filler, and you don't want to know what it is. There's probably some rat parts in there, some bugs. Stumpy's used to be his hand, but we call him Stumpy for a reason now.
Poor Stumpy.
But yeah,
I don't. That's the thing.
Okay. Did you look into the romance options?
Oh yeah, I got married.
Well. No, I'm not talking about getting married, because I think we got married both to the same NPC because she was pretty much the only one that that you've really spent any time with for quite a while. I'm talking about the options. Pretty much all the characters that you had romance options with were the same. The same alignment, in the same group. It's like, do you want the blonde one? Do you want the I can't believe she's not evil one? The one with the cowboy hat with emotional baggage / kid. For a game this massive, having literally everybody that you could romance, which I know romance in Bethesda games always sucks, but even companion wise, or who you could take on missions, it's very limited. It's shockingly so. I mean, I know that I think you could actually take crew members, but even then, there's only so many crew members that you could recruit. And guess what? That's limited to a skill.
You can have a max of 9 crew members on your ship, and then a max of 8 people on a settlement. Those are 2 different skills, by the way. So, maximum you can recruit. What is that? What's 8 plus 17? Yeah, maximum you can recruit is 17 people into your crew. Technically, if you don't count the Constellation members, because you can like go and grab one of them to follow you as a follower or as a companion, and they give you the bonuses as if they're on your crew, but they don't count against the crew limit. Technically, you can have 18 people. There are 3 levels of companions. There are the Constellation members, which are like the highest tier companions who have the most skills.
And all are exactly the same people.
They have the most skills, the most of backstory content, and the most that you can get out of them. They can give you that. They all have side quest lines. Then there are the tier 2 crew members who you can pick these guys up at bars, and they're semi-unique NPCs. And they have less skills, but they still have pretty decent skills. They're full-fledged companions that can follow you around. You can trade their weapons and gear with them. And some of them have minor side quests. Not all of them, but some of them. And then there's the tier 1 crew members, which are literally like they have one skill, and they wear just like generic jumpers, and they can't really talk to you other than like, "Hi, Captain, how's your day? I hope you're doing well." And they are the bare bones, like, I'm on New Game Plus. I want to find a couple of people to like round out this thing on my ship, and I'm ready to go. And as far as I know, they have no additional content. They're just warm bodies to give you a stat boost.
Bodies.
But yeah, I could keep talking. I could keep going, but I don't know if I have much else to say. This game just doesn't do what it advertised itself as being able to do. It's not a good space exploration game. All of its main competitors.
And you can fast travel to that planet.
You can't see that moon over there? You can fast travel to it. But it does not do space exploration. Really, it barely does it at all. But it doesn't do it as well as any of its competitors. Even Elite Dangerous, which is not primarily a space exploration game, has got a much more detailed way to explore and scientifically study and engage with planets and things that you find on it. So it's not a good space exploration game. It is not a good combat-focused game. The space combat is a joke. On-foot combat is fine, but it's extremely repetitive and not very deep or interesting. And as a story game, it doesn't have a very good story. No Man's Sky does the whole main story, like infinite universe loop, better than this game does. Like, it doesn't do anything better than any of its peers. And in a lot of ways, it doesn't even average out amongst its peers to be this kind of jack of all trades option. It lacks any real depth. It lacks any strong character. It lacks conviction or passion. It is a corporate property that is designed to sell you DLC and merch for as many years as they
Oh, and
can.
don't forget, a $300 collector's edition.
Well, merch.
I always consider the collector's editions separate from the merch because you never know about another canvas shortage.
But yeah, it just solid 5 out of 10. Solid like C minus. It technically is a game in the same way that just eating plain oatmeal is technically a breakfast. Like, it gets the job done. If you need some game to play and you want it to be vaguely sci-fi, it gets the job done. But if you have any other option at this stage, I wouldn't pick Starfield.
I mean,
Maybe.
especially since so many of the systems just feel pointless in general. Building weapons, assuming that you get the points to put into the skill, just feels pointless after a while because the weapons are leveled to whatever level you picked them up, minus a few exceptions. So you're dumping resources into a weapon that you're going to get rid of pretty soon. Same for spacesuits. Until you get to that plateau, you're just dumping resources. And mind you, getting resources is either cumbersome and slow, or you're building dedicated outposts. And honestly, at the point of building outposts for some of these resources, it just makes no sense to me because it's cumbersome there as well. It's sluggish. There's not enough storage for really anything. It feels like a shell of a good game held together with tape and a little bits of string and maybe some bubble gum, just waiting for the modders to come in and actually fill in all the cracks. Because there is a hell of a lot of potential for modders to go in and fix this game. However, I always view the modding community as a bonus and not the selling point. That's why I could look at KSP 1 and say, yeah, it's a great game, and it has modding potential to make it even better, versus going to Skyrim and saying, well, it's a piece of shit because you have to try to mod in some fun, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. With enough DLC and enough mods, Starfield could be a really interesting, unique game, but it shouldn't have to be that way. The game shouldn't have to rely on modders to fix it, and it shouldn't have to rely on I think Starfield started pre-production in 2013, a couple years of pre-production, so active production 8 years. After 8 years of production, you should have more to show for it than this.
Yeah, and I'm honestly getting fucking sick and tired of every game needing a redemption arc now. It's getting ridiculous.
Yep. Agreed. Starfield is a game that is a galaxy wide and an inch deep. And it, I don't want to talk about it anymore.
It's not even an inch deep. It's like the depth of a hydrogen molecule. But occasionally it gets down to inch.
Yeah. An inch deep at its deepest. But, yeah. I guess play it if you're bored and want to, waste some time in a way that is technically more interesting than watching paint dry.
Well, there's this. Well, we should put that one in the box of the Game of the Year edition. Technically more fun than watching paint dry.
Yeah, technically more interesting than paint drying. 5.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, I think I pretty much sum it up in one of my thoughts here. Everything feels like it's spread thin, far too thin. Major towns usually have one major quest at best. And there's one major town on a planet at best. When you're looking at older games from Bethesda where you'll hit 2 or 3 major quest lines along with some interesting side quests. Now it's just spread so thin. Never mind the fact that Oh, I have to fast travel back and forth between several planets in order to do something. So, yeah, shall we move on to our next corporate show of a game?
Yeah, let's do that. So our game club for November is going to be Need for Speed Unbound.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was your idea, although I don't remember.
I, I I think it was my idea for just to see where the Need for Speed franchise is. I think this is the latest one now. It's on Game Pass, so it I played a bit of it. A little bit of a early take is that it's okay, but it also makes me want to go back to some of the older Need for Speed games.
Yeah. I've played a bunch of the older ones. I haven't played any of the newer ones within like the last at least 7 years, like 2015.
Yeah, Unbound is the latest one. It it has an odd styling that can be off-putting if you're not prepared for it.
Yeah, I think Undercover was probably the last one I played that I can remember.
Yeah, Undercover was 2008. Let's put it this way: since Need for Speed Undercover, I'm just making sure. Yeah, okay. There's been Need for Speed Shift, Need for Speed Nitro, which uh, the Shift was on PS3, Xbox, and 360 and Windows, while Nitro was a Wii exclusive.
Wait, is Shift the one that's more like professional racing? I might have played that one.
Yeah, I think so. Uh, Need for Speed World, which was a free-to-play MMO that closed in 2015. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. Uh, Need for Speed Shift 2 Unleashed. Need for Speed The Run. How about that? Need for Speed must have had some bad food. It got the runs. Need for Speed Most Wanted. Need for Speed Rivals. Need for Speed No Limits. Uh, Need for Speed just, Need for Speed. It's was a series reboot. Need for Speed Payback. Need for Speed Heat, which I think was the one that had like the heist gameplay kind of cringy trailer at E3 that one year. And then Unbound, which was 2022. That's a lot of Need for Speed games, huh?
That is. I didn't realize there were that many.
I mean, some of these are platform exclusive. Like No Limits was Android, for example. There's a couple that like Nitro, and there was a couple others that were like Nintendo platforms.
Gotcha. Yeah, so Need for Speed, I guess. We'll check in on that franchise.
Yeah, yeah. Check in, see how they're doing. Get annoyed with the voice actors because, all right.
See if their check engine light's on.
I don't want to draw any conclusions here. If you see the screenshot for this game, you'll understand it.
Okay, I believe you. Moving on. Let's hit up our first news topic of the night.
Yeah, we're kind of skipping on the community stuff right now because Game Club we knew was going to be long.
Indeed. So yeah, the Escapist has mass resignations. That why don't you take this one for a minute?
Oh, the Escapist. I guess it's finally dying. So the Escapist is it's a gaming news site that's been around for a very long time. It's kind of had its ups and downs. It's had its controversies, but it's most well known for the Zero Punctuation series with Ben Yahtzee Croshaw. And well, that series is done now. Congratulations, Gamer Group. And gamer is spelled as annoyingly as possible, by the way. Essentially, okay, I've been listening to the Escapist podcast on and off for a few months. I will admit that I'm not completely up to date to it. I think I have a couple left. Essentially, back in September, they were bought out by Gamer Group. And Gamer Group is a bunch of venture capitalists that's been buying up some gaming and pop culture sites. And the editor in chief over there, over at the Escapist, Nick, was given some. Well, they don't say exactly what uh, the targets were, but the Escapist wasn't meeting him, so they fired him. And Nick has been the guy that's basically rebuilt the Escapist from a few years ago. At one point, the Escapist was pretty much a dumping ground for zero punctuation. That was it on the website. You'd go there and be like, zero punctuation from this week, last week, the week before, no other news articles, nothing. They used to do a lot more video content than just zero punctuation. It was just what was basically keeping them afloat. And they rebuilt. They built a editorial team and was getting some decent content out. And they actually did a series that I was wanting to check out, but I guess I won't now. Called Adventure is Nigh, where it's a D&D group, basically just roundtable goofing off. You know,
I mean, that's just D&D groups most of the time,
yeah,
sitting
true.
on a table, goofing off.
But you also have Yahtzee in the middle of it, so
right. You've got a professional goofer as opposed to just the normies.
pretty much, right? So, seeing a mass resignation following the firing of editor-in-chief, that should tell you everything you need to know about what the editorial team thought of this guy, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like basically this group wants to flood their websites with AI content. There's a article that's going to be in the show notes, and I want to emphasize, pretty sure not onion, pretty sure not satire. All right, there's still that like air of possibility because the internet these days.
Right.
But according to this other article, they're posting listings for a AI editor to basically oversee AI generation of news articles, between 200 and 250 articles a week, with average salary coming out right at $4.20 an article. Yes, $4.20. And in case you're wondering, yes, Gamer Group, the founder of it, was a teenager that got very lucky with some investments and got a lot of money. Just like somebody with a certain emerald mine, right?
Yep.
So, yeah. Pretty much, I have very little faith in some of the websites that they own, because if they're just going to start pumping out articles, this is part of the reason why I got out of the writing gig in the first place, is that there's essentially tiers of article content, or of people that buy content. There's people that just want as much content as possible. Yeah, essentially what used to be the content mills, which is now just AI generated. There's ones that will go a level up and like, okay, well, start with this and then tweak it a little bit and make it a little bit better. Then you go further and further up, but the further up you go, it requires more contacts, more being in the business, having a good relationship with that company. And I lost that whenever a couple of the websites I used to write for shut down. And I just was never able to transition, because you have to try to claw your way back through the lower tiers of all the AI content mill produced shit.
Right.
So to see the Escapist, that most likely going to be that now. There's a few others on the list on Futurism that they own that could also be susceptible to this. Mind you, they've called the jobs of at least 50 people uh, on across their websites, and this was just a group of layoffs in March. So yeah, expect some really crap articles out there, huh?
Yeah. Or some really average articles, depending on how you want to, I guess, think about it.
True.
Granted, the average can be dog shit, but,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
I mean, having a lead editor making before taxes 40 to 55,000 a year is absurd. That's low, especially for the amount of content that they're going to have to go through.
Yeah.
This is going to possibly make me sound like a piece of shit, but we're most likely looking at someone in a poorer country with English as a second or third language that would accept that salary. And
yeah. I don't think that makes you sound like a piece of shit, because the way that you're talking about it is in like, this is the economic reality of the world that we live in, and it's hot garbage.
Well,
like, it is what it is.
I'm just always very careful whenever I talk about people in less fortunate countries taking jobs like this, because part of that was the content mills back in the day. Seeing people take articles that are 1,000 words plus at less than a penny per word. I mean, there's just no way to compete with that, and that's AI these days. It's pretty much the same thing, or the same level of content creation. So, pour one out for zero punctuation. They have already said that they're going to basically stick together the people that resigned along with the editor-in-chief, and they're creating a new company called Second Wind. No details about what's happening with that just yet. They're going to have a live stream about that the day after we're recording this, I believe. So, yeah, I'll probably be getting a new podcast to listen to instead of slightly something else. So there is that. At least I hope
always
I
a
hope they
benefit.
keep the podcast going. I think this is the end for the Escapist, because one of the big things that they pivoted to whenever they did like the big revival was fan engagement and community engagement and community funding. So a lot of Patreon stuff, a lot of their big series was funded through like super chats, through their podcast, through Patreon campaigns, that sort of thing. So it makes me wonder just how they're going to fund this, because the Escapists didn't have a ton of obtrusive ads. Oh wait, they're going to have obtrusive ads, aren't they?
Yeah.
Time to
for sure.
Time to start selling dick pills.
My brain finished that sentence with pics. Time to start selling dick pics. I mean, if you insist.
No, bad touch.
I don't know if that's a touch if I'm sending you pics, but...
Or you're touching it, bad touch.
I mean, I'm pretty partial to that touch, but everyone is entitled to their own opinion.
So, speaking of opinions, Nintendo announces live-action Legend of Zelda movie. Because I don't think you really had anything to say about The Escapist, right?
I don't. I haven't really participated in any of the ongoing Escapist stuff in several years. I mean, when you brought this up, I didn't realize that they'd had a revival.
Yeah, they had a revival like 2 years ago.
Well, good for them up until it fell apart. Granted, no fault of their own, but...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you want to read something fun, go check out the Wikipedia page for a gamer group. And it's GAMAR. Oh, what the hell? Sorry. Oh, no. Anyway, do you want to talk Zelda?
Yeah, let's do that. So, as you said, Nintendo announces live action Legend of Zelda movie.
Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of info about this just yet. This is just the initial announcement that, hey, we're doing a thing.
Yeah. It would be interesting. It's interesting to see Nintendo open up after the recent success of Mario, and while the Mario movie, and while it's not a Nintendo property, I also think that Sonic's successful burgeoning movie franchise has like opened their eyes to like, okay, yeah, there's a lot of money to be made here, and things are different than they used to be when we tried to make the first Mario movie.
Here's the thing about this first Mario movie is it was the first video game movie, period. And they made it back when Mario, the big lore of Mario was he runs to the right and the princess is always in another castle. Actually, I don't even know if Mario 2 was out at that point. It was really early. And if you disconnect Mario from that movie, it's an interesting like dystopian like sci-fi movie. I really am convinced that the original Super Mario movie it gets a lot more flack than what it really deserved. And yes, I have watched it.
I haven't seen it in a while. It's been at least 10 years since I've seen it.
It is weird. It is odd. And if you ignore the fact that this is supposed to be Super Mario, it's actually fun, And not a whole, this movie's so bad it's good either. At least in my opinion. So, Legend of Zelda. There is quite a few areas you could go with this. I mean, first of all, are you going to follow any of the particular games? All right.
I feel like the most likely options are Ocarina of Time, because that is one of the most popular, not only Zelda games, but video games of all time. The more recent stuff, just because it's prevalent on everybody's mind. Or you do kind of a, maybe not a spin-off per se, but you, it's going to have Link. It's going to have to. It's going to have Link. It's going to have Zelda. It's going to have Ganondorf. I feel like those three are going to have to be in it, but it serves as more of like a compressed origin story or something. Like it's telling, instead of one game story, a summation of a bunch of them.
I mean, the thing is that Ganon isn't even in all the Zelda games. So I don't think Ganon has to be a antagonist per se. I could see them even diving into like the lore and history of Legend of Zelda instead of having Link as we know him. Like the idea or one of the potential ideas of the Legend of Zelda is that the reincarnation cycle. Link and Zelda and Ganon are reincarnated through the power of the Triforce, essentially. The hero time is always Link. Go back to like the first Link,
Yeah.
The creation of the Triforce, and go into some of the deep lore that Legend of Zelda fans would absolutely be drooling for. But I also don't think that would be a huge blockbuster hit. Which, that's what we're looking at here with the likes of Sony joining in, which I do love the little tidbit at the end of the Tech Raptor article, that the last time that Nintendo and Sony worked together, it was for a planned disk drive attachment for the Super Nintendo that Nintendo backed out on, which created the PlayStation.
Yeah. A neat little tidbit for people who don't know that.
The problem with the more recent stuff is that it's so open world. So unless you do like a condensed, speed run story of it, a lot of the charm of those games is, your own adventure. So I think that's less likely. I could see even going to like Wind Waker for more of like the piracy, boat aspect of it. If you want to go follow along the games. But once again, we're talking live action, which part of the charm of Wind Waker was also its art style. Twilight Princess, maybe?
Maybe. I mean, they could do a bunch of stuff with it, but at least for the first one, they're gonna do whatever they think makes them is gonna be the most money. And the
Yeah.
surefire bets are, Ocarina of Time, some adaptation of something more recent, the more recent couple of Zelda games,
Mhm.
or Twilight Princess was pretty popular. I mean, a lot of them have been pretty popular, but like sort of one of the more mainline entry ones.
Well, the thing with Ocarina of Time is that it has a built-in sequel right there. If you think about it, right?
Which game? What would be the built-in sequel? You
Ocarina
talk
of
about
Time.
doing one movie as Kid Link and one movie as Adult
No,
Link.
no, no. I was saying Ocarina of Time going into Majora's Mask.
Oh, okay. That was my second guess.
But hell, if you wanted to, you could split Ocarina of Time into two. But I think that's too big of risk.
For the first movie in the franchise, absolutely.
I really think this. I don't think it will follow along with a particular game story. I think there might be story beats from particular games, or uh, nods to aspects of them. But I think we're going to be seeing a unique story on this one. That's my prediction. Because as popular as video games are these days, as popular as Legend of Zelda is these days, we're also looking at the more general movie audience, which are not as video game savvy. And while the hero's journey is perhaps one of the oldest storytelling tropes there is out there, attaching a full game's plot to a movie is a more risky move than making a story that is nodding to particular aspects of the lore while uh, retelling the lore to people that are in the know, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm my money I think is on unique story. Maybe not go a full deep dive into the history of the franchise or the beginning of the lore, extremely early days, that sort of thing. But go more like a safer route would be potentially like the opening from like Link to the Past. Yeah, where you're essentially a nobody, even though you are the chosen one because Triforce, that sort of thing. But it has a very safe opening for a movie. You're off saving the princess who you see in a dream, and go from there.
Oh no, Mario. Or oh no, Link, the princess is in another castle.
Only
What
the
you gonna
princess
do?
is voiced by Chris Pratt. Good.
Actors will be interesting. Actor selection will
Yeah,
be
yeah,
interesting.
There's no info on actor selection. Only thing we have is the producer, which is Avi Adrid.
Yeah, I don't know who that is. What have they produced?
Uh, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Okay. I mean, that's good. It's a good movie.
Spider-Man No Way Home.
Also a good movie.
A lot of Marvel stuff actually,
Okay. That
but
makes sense.
there's also some stuff that has me take pause, like Bratz. And no, I'm not joking. Uh, they also did Morbius, which became an internet meme for a while.
Yep.
The Uncharted movie, pretty much all the Spider-Mans for quite a while. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which I absolutely loved. Spider-Man Far From Home. Venom Let There Be Carnage, which technically Spider-Man. Across the Spider-Verse, like I said. Spider-Man Homecoming. He also did Ghost in the Shell. Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures TV series. One of these things is not like the other, right?
Honestly, a couple of those things aren't like the other, but I got you. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
The Amazing Spider-Man 2. X-Men Origins Wolverine. Is that the one where they decided to have Deadpool and sew his mouth shut?
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, give the character that's known to be a smart ass literally no way to talk, right?
I mean, somebody thought it was a good idea. They were wrong, but somebody thought it was.
I mean, honestly, a lot of superhero stuff, which does make me can be a little bit of pause. I mean, I know Uncharted is like is the one. Is that the only video game thing he has on here? Actually, unless you want to count Spider-Man, right?
I mean, they're not going to be going for video games though. They're going to be going for that Marvel
Mhm.
Cinematic
Yeah,
Universe.
true. Yeah, I mean that's kind of the thing is that I think Nintendo wants to turn this into a cinematic universe. Possible. Oh, oh. I just had a thought. Okay, Nintendo wants to do their cinematic universe as a build up to their big crossover, the Super Smash Brothers movie.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that was legit. Like, I think you're being a little sarcastic, but also like
Slightly
I could believe
sarcastic, but
that.
at the same time,
I
uh,
would 100% would buy that. Like, I would believe that they were doing that.
right? Yeah, I have animated Chris Pratt, Mario, whoever plays Link, uh, Cloud Strife, because he's there, right?
Yeah.
Uh, who would we have as Samus? Anyway, that's going to be their end game. That's going to be their big crossover movie where they bring everyone together. Super Smash Brothers. See you guys in like 2050 when that happens, right?
Yeah. I could believe it though. I genuinely could believe it. I wouldn't have to try hard to believe it.
Oh God. Well, I just looked at the upcoming for him. I didn't even realize that they're making a Borderlands movie.
For who?
This guy, the producer,
Oh.
he's producing an unnamed Venom sequel, Borderlands. So,
Borderlands is generic enough of a name though that it doesn't necessarily have to be.
no. A feature film based on the popular video game set on an abandoned fictional planet of Pandora.
Okay.
Borderlands.
Never mind.
Let's see, Jamie Lee Curtis. Oh. Oh shit.
Who the hell would Jamie Lee Curtis play? She's like
Tannis. But
oh.
Claptrap. You know who they have for Claptrap?
Hang on, who should it be? See, I don't know as many modern day actors and actresses. What's his name from Rick and Morty? Oh, geez, Rick. Like them.
Oh. And no, it's not Chris Pratt either.
Well, that's good.
Try Jack Black.
You know, if anybody could pull off a claptrap that wasn't just awful, I'd believe Jack Black could.
It's like, oh, this is either going to be an amazing character or terrible. And I don't know which.
But I mean, those are really your only two choices of the claptrap, period. Either they are going to be amazing or they are going to be awful. There is no in between on that character.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, Anita's not going to be pleased. This looks like a live action Naruto movie.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. They're doing live action One Piece.
Hey, that was actually surprisingly good.
Well,
It's
maybe.
like it's the exception to the rule.
Maybe live action Naruto will be surprisingly good.
Let's see. Silver Sable, which I believe is Marvel. The Sinister Six, which is definitely Marvel. Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. So, hey, sequel, right?
Yep.
Metal Gear Solid. Craven the Hunter. And Untitled Venom sequel. So, I guess that whole, he doesn't do a lot of video game stuff. He took that personally.
Yeah. I don't know. It could be good. I look forward to at least seeing it. It'll be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. It looks like it's like an amalgamation of Borderlands 1 and 2 based on the cast. I'm still looking at the cast list here. Because they have Tiny Tina in this as well. Which, pretty sure she didn't show up in the first one.
I don't know. I don't remember. It's been forever since I played the first Borderlands, so... I mean, I know we started playing it, but we didn't get very far.
Yeah, we got bored.
So, like, I did beat it at one point, but that's been a long time ago.
Or I should say, it looks like some characters from Borderlands 2 shows up in this one, but yeah. Well, that's going to be something to look at some point, all right?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
If
Yep.
we ever want to, we could always take Game Club as a movie night.
Could do watch along,
Mm-hmm.
watch party. Woo! All right, my friend. I think it's time for us to pack it in. So
Yeah.
why don't you hit them with them socials?
And hit him with the music. Oh, wait. Well, I've been Caffeine Rage. You could maybe catch me on Bluebird someday, maybe. I mean, I'm still gaming with CR over there. Even though I haven't posted anything in a very long time because Elon Musk is a twit.
Indeed.
I know, I shouldn't call him that. That's an insult to twits everywhere. How about a jackass?
That's
No,
better.
jackasses have redeeming qualities.
That is true. They're usually good at carrying things.
Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, I'm also on Steam because, of course, I am Caffeine Rage over there. And you've been?
I've been me. That is Jared. You can find me on the website formerly known as Twitter at JMA4707 until it implodes the rest of the way. A great deal of implosion has happened.
Or they force you to pay a fee, and it's like, fuck that.
Yep. I'm not doing that. So you can find me there. You can find me on our Discord. You can find me maybe sometime. I mean, it's been months now, so probably not, but twitch.tv/runicarts if we wind up streaming any more tabletop stuff, although seems unlikely, but who knows. You can find me down at the corner store, give me a tenner and I'll tell you a story or something. Yeah, that's me.
Woo, as we scroll back up to the top. And you mentioned the Discord, which you can find a link to that over on our website, vglpodcast.podbean.com. All the way there at the top with our show notes. And if you wish to spread the love, you can find us on your podcatcher of choice. I'm out of order because I'm out of practice because we haven't recorded in a while, have we?
Nope.
Our lovely, lovely patrons have made this band as possible, though, and we are very thankful that they stuck around. You can find out more about that over at patreon.com/VGL podcast. If you wish to send us any news topics or suggestions, voicemails, reviews, if you wish to get in on a movie night with us, make fun of... that's probably about the only way I'm going to watch the Mario movie, to be perfectly honest.
We can do that.
You can do so over at vglpodcast@gmail.com. You drop a link to us in the Discord, which you can find, like I said, at vglpodcast.podbean.com. Or you can still tweet us over at VGL Podcast on the Twitter. And no, I'm not calling it excretions, no matter how much that jackass wants it.
I saw someone make an argument that you could pronounce them as sheets. So you
Well, see, excretions, you get that hard X that he wants.
Yeah.
How about we just call him tweets and dead name the platform like he did today to his child?
I mean, I still do. I say the platform formerly known as Twitter, but I still say that I'm tweeting.
The emails still say that because they got hit by porn filters. Or did you not know the reason for that?
I did.
Oh.
Elon Musk, the king of not thinking things through and not listening to his advisors, because I'm sure people warned him.
You think he actually hires people that says no to him?
No, but he took over the company and there were already people there that would have, and then he subsequently fired them.
Anyway, intro and outro music on the ground by Kevin McClay. Find his work over at CountingBeatDeck.com. And
as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice, bye-bye now.
See ya.
Bye-bye.